Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Thanksgiving Eve of our Talking Real Estate. The Champions Real Estate team here, Berkshire Hathaway Home Source Ambassador Real Estate Companies. My name is Mark Wehner, the second team leader. We jump on every Wednesday, give a rundown what's going on in the real estate market over the last 7 days. And joining me is Russ Williams with Williams Mortgage. So I'd like to start with a quick tip here every Wednesday. So our quick tip today is just kind of home equity. What is home equity? Equity is basically I call it like a house savings account is honestly how I try to explain it to my clients. Uh, Basically, if you buy a house at $100,000 and that house, and you put $20,000 down, 20% down, so you have $80,000 loan, you have $20,000 of equity at that time. Basically, you purchase the house. Now, if that house goes up, let's say to 150, so you add that 70,000 or the 20,000 you put down plus that extra 50,000 that you have appreciated over, X amount of years. That's $70,000 in equity that you're looking at if you were to sell that house, and you didn't have any realtor fees or anything like that, but that's what you would take home. So the equity is that difference for what it's worth versus what you owe on it. And so sometimes people, I always have the honest conversation with all of my clients of, I'm huge into kind of the real estate investing side and utilizing maybe that, keeping that existing home as an investment property. And so how would you do that? Essentially, you could cash out, refinance, or pull some of that money out. You pull, I think, so, Russ can correct me if I'm wrong, about 80%, 70, 80%, depending on other figures in that. So if you got $100,000 of equity, you could pull out 70 to $80,000 potentially to take out and go use for that next house, leaving, 30 to 25% of equity in the home for that lender so they don't have as much risk in that loan is what they're looking at. So you can take that money, turn and use that. And then basically you can take that existing home, turn that into investment property. Hopefully this is where we would help you is run those numbers and say, all right, what's rent going to be? What's your mortgage payment going to be? What's the capital expenditures going to be? And hopefully be able to get you to cash flow a little bit, if not, break even and then essentially capitalizing on that appreciation. So that's one way that like when you're thinking of selling your house, do you really need to sell that house to buy the next house, and utilizing that existing house as an investment property, and some of those benefits that come along with that. That could be a whole whole episode of our talk in here, but that's just kind of the quick tip. So when you're working with an agent, hopefully you're working with one of us here at Champions Real Estate Team, that excuse me, that's the stuff we'll dive into you with, kind of at a listing appointment or a pre-listing appointment going, what makes sense? Does it make sense to keep this? Does it make sense to sell it? Sometimes rental properties aren't all sunshine and rainbows, and that's what we're honest with you. I have a couple myself. I've had evictions. I've had, I literally just replaced a furnace and air conditioner last week, at 8,500 bucks or whatever. So there's expenses that do come along with those, but the risk reward, it just what is your flavor and what works for you. Is it just an example? I had clients that basically they were going to save, they're going to keep that $30,000 in there. And basically that was at $5 per thousand, that's $150 a month. Or if it's $25, it's 100, that difference there. And so being able you're having that's all that's costing you to keep that house. If you were to move that money, that extra $25,000 on that next house is only saving you like $125 a month. And so does that make sense? Can you cash flow a little bit more than that on that existing home? Those are all options. Like I said, we just want you to go over that because most people are like, well, Mark, aren't you talking yourself out of selling our house? And I'm like, well, yeah, because if how we make money is obviously buying and helping people buy and sell real estate. Well, if we're telling you to keep your house, we're not putting a for sale sign in the yard and we're not basically getting paid to do that. But we have a fiduciary responsibility, in my opinion, to do what's in your best interest. And we just got to make sure you know all the options so you do know what's in your best interest. Maybe it isn't. Maybe you're like, I don't want to deal with it being a landlord. I don't want to own real estate. I'm going to take that money. I'm going to put it towards my next house. I'm going to save that extra $125 a month because that's all that $25,000 is really only saving you in that aspect of it. So those are just things, like I said, we like to chat about. So if that's something that interests you, give us a holler. I can go a whole long, lengthy, talk about it, but try to keep it short and sweet here. So awesome. Let's jump into what's gone on in the real estate market here in the last 7 days. Obviously, coming into a holiday weekend, numbers aren't crazy jumping off the tables by any means. We had 545 new listings go live, about what we had last week around that 500 mark. 323 new listings or new contracts. So basically pending units. I think we were like 360 or so last week. And then sold homes went up a little bit. So basically, all those people are trying to get in before the holidays, got in this last weekend. Because I think our number last week was down like 330, 35 or something in that ballpark. So we saw that number tick up. Usually that's very typical this time of year. But it's still obviously a great time to buy and sell. I think we had the same song and dance we had last week of, if you're still buying, even if you're thinking of buying in the spring, keep your radar up, see what's coming out on the marketplace. Because if there's something that you could jump on and get it at a better price now than you would potentially in the spring, if the stars align, then awesome, let's rock and roll with it. But if not, let's wait till spring. So just keep you up to date on what's going on there. So let's jump into the 30,000 foot view side of it here. Pulling up here. All right, so we had 4,220 homes active in the Omaha Lincoln MLS, 2355 in Douglas Sarpent County in the Omaha metro area, 1,350 and 1,000. 5 on the new construction. Months of inventory went down a little bit because our existing homes went down. Our actually new construction went up by 1. So we had 1,004 and we went up by 1. So not a lot. That new construction is kind of stagnant out there. I'm starting to see some builders maybe doing a little discounting just because they want to get some of those homes moved a little bit. And existing is going down just a little bit. As we're coming in the winter months and stuff like that. So nothing crazy there. Average sold price went up $1,000. So yeah, nothing crazy on the numbers wise. Nothing I've seen out of the ordinary. Like I said, it's still a good time to obviously buy and sell and all that kind of fashion. We can go more into getting your house ready, especially this time of year's pricing isn't right. You don't want to basically test the market because there's not much to test it on because there's not a lot of as many buyers in the buyer pool. So if you miss those buyers that you're testing on, you may be waiting for a little bit longer. So getting that house right priced is very important in this marketplace. So awesome. So Russ, what are we seeing on your side of the coin with the mortgages and all that good stuff? So.
We're continuing to see a lot of economic data come out following the government opening back up that has the potential to move mortgage rates one direction or the other. The Fed won't meet for another 2 weeks roughly, but when they do meet, they won't have the benefit of having seen the most recent non-farm payroll reports. And so right now they're using older data or private data to determine whether or not they want to make a rate cut. And there's probably in this range right now around a 50-50 chance that they might or might not cut rates by an additional 25 basis points. The camps are split almost evenly right now. Who knows over the next 2 weeks if that data might change. But having said that, whichever way they go, the market's probably somewhere in the middle. So we'll see some movement going one way or the other. That's also the time of year that we start getting numbers out from the government-sponsored enterprises, the Federal Housing Finance Agency on maximum conventional conforming loan limits for the next year. And those have been increased for 2026 to, let me get you the dollar amount here, 832,750 in the Omaha area on the Nebraska market. What that will also mean is in the next probably week or so, we'll also have a change to the maximum FHA loan limit. So we are seeing a lot of data come out, Mark. Rates are generally moving sideways. Economic data, it's not tanking, but it's not strong by any means. And so we have seen a mild improvement in rates, but we're still setting a little bit higher than we were 3 weeks ago. And I expect we'll probably be in this range, kind of choppy here, probably for the next 3 weeks until we have better direction from the Fed.
Unmute myself here. I'm at home with my 3 kiddos, so sometimes you don't know when they're going to just jump in and be a little rowdy, so it's all good. But yeah, like I said, we hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving, obviously, for tomorrow. Enjoy the weekend. And if you have any questions or anything we can help you out in the future, just let us know. Those that are in my little sphere, I basically just emailed out or mailed out our quarterly market analysis letters. So basically that's, specific to your neighborhood. Basically it's not a huge in-depth one, but basically gives you your neighborhood, a generalization plus a trend graphics report. So if that's something you guys want, anybody else out there, just shoot me, direct message, on any of the social media platforms. Obviously you can text my numbers right down here. Shoot me your address, name. I'm happy to do one of those for you. So basically it gives you kind of rundown what's going on, over the last quarter, what interest rates are doing, the CMA summary sheet. I can do a more in-depth one, but ultimately coming to see your house, see updates and all that stuff. But it gives you a good general barometer of what the market's doing in your specific neighborhood. So that's something I send out every quarter. So you guys get that. So you guys kind of stay informed. I like to keep my community, basically my sphere, my clients, my friends and stuff like that informed of what's going on. So yeah, if you have any questions, if you want one of those, give me a holler. literally, I just had one of my past clients, one of the first coaches I coached with in hockey, his wife, she's like, "Oh, I love getting these," and they have the bar graphs. You can see the trends over the last year and a half of if you're thinking of when to put your house on the market, when to buy. It shows you the pending activities, actives, solds, over the last year and a half on their month-to-month basis, so you kind of get a good idea. So, but yeah, that's what we like to do here, keep you guys informed. But appreciate you guys. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we will see you.